Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today's guest, I'm excited because we have the chief nerd at the Modern Health Nerd, where she uses smart strategies and great content to help brands connect with their customers. I'm talking about Sam Houghton, who is a graduate of the Bauman College Nutrition Consultant Program and the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutritional Studies Plant-Based Nutrition Certificate Program. That's a mouthful, and has over 12 years of experience writing for the web. Her work has appeared on nutritionstudies.org and Upside by VitaCost, and has been featured on Green Queen Media. She's also been a guest on several podcasts, including Vegan Stories, Vegan Visibility, and the Protein X Virtual Coffee Series, and Let's Eat with Mark Samuel. In her free time, of course, Sam enjoys the simple things of reading and studying the Bible, cooking plant-based foods, visiting farmers markets, and knitting crazy socks. I'm going to have to ask her if she can knit me one. Please, everybody, put your hands together for Sam Houghton, and welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Phil.
Did I mess up at any point in the pronunciation of anything there? I feel I did.
Well, it's Houghton, but you would not believe the permutations I've had of my last name throughout my life, including by the principal at my school more than once, who should have known how to pronounce my name.
Well, as someone who has a French last name, it's not better, it's Lemire. I fully understand how people can destroy the name, and Houghton, I apologize. Welcome to the show, even though I butchered your name. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm feeling kind of a combination of being a little tired just because I've been doing a lot of brain work today, but also at the same time, I'm feeling pretty good because I spent part of the space between Christmas and New Year's doing some planning for 2023. So I've got a trajectory to go on, and that always feels exciting.
I love that. All right. So yeah, this is something I like to touch on, and we're going to get into that. So before I do anything, would you mind introducing yourself? I did read off this a beautiful intro that I wrote for you with AI, and it had some funny programs in there that I've never heard of. So we'll definitely be asking questions about that. But how about you give us a human introduction about yourself?
Well, as you read, I am a graduate of both Bowman College and the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and I'll give you a tiny little background on that. I'll give you the condensed version. When I was a teenager, I went vegetarian for silly reasons, and then I went vegan because I'm lactose intolerant. And it was interesting because back then, vegan food was basically tofu hot dogs and that funky cheese that tasted worse than the package it came in. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but as I got into it, I got really fascinated by the nutrition and health aspect of it. So I took the plant-based nutrition certificate course, and then I wanted to become a health coach. So I went to the Bowman College program. There wasn't really a prominent plant-based specific program, but that one was a little more whole food based, and really learned a lot of interesting stuff there. So that got me into health coaching, and I've been a writer my whole life. I've always been telling stories. And so I did some, small time vegan food blogging just for the fun of it. And then was a health coach for a while. Beginning of 2020, hooked up with a business coach and kind of merged the health coaching and the writing into what I'm doing now, which is basically long form content writing for brands in plant-based, better for you, functional space. I'm expanding a little bit though. I really am fascinated by tech. I've had experience writing in finance. I'm dipping my toes into Web3 a little bit. And I'm also part of a writers collective called Foster, where we provide human peer editing for people to improve their writing. And we do some other stuff too, events and things like that. And so that's been pretty fun. And that's me pretty much. Also, I am swatching for a sock.
Okay, wait. Are you doing that live on the show as we're talking? That's how incredible you are? Is that what we're talking? Are you just trying to show off that you can do two things at once?
I'm somebody who gets antsy really easy, so I kind of learned how to do basic knitting type stuff when I'm doing other things.
That okay, show off. Um, so what made you decide to go become like a long form writer? Like what was it that were you always decided to be like a freelancer? Like you were never like one because apparently you just for silly reasons became a vegetarian, which we don't have to touch on, but you said silly reasons. So was it a silly reason you went into entrepreneurship or was it there was a genuine reason that you decided to?
But, I tried a lot of the traditional trajectories and it didn't really click. And we had like a family business going on for a while. So I was able to help with that. And when I was doing the health coaching, it wasn't, it's a hard sell here. It's a hard sell in upstate New York health coaching. I think it might be a little easier now because we're getting a little more eclectic. We have a big farmers market, a few small ones. We're getting a little bit more into the natural and some more like vegan plant-based places around here. But I discovered, unfortunately, what is a content mill. And I didn't know what content mills were at the time, where you just sign up and get a lot of low paying content jobs. But, for my first foray into it, I was like, oh, cool, I can just sign up for this site and write stuff and get paid. So I actually managed to make a living doing that for a while. But I wanted to get out of that because it's pretty much a hamster wheel. You hit a ceiling where you can't make any more. Nothing, you can't use anything in your portfolio. It's really not, there's no career advancement there. So I think the thing that really pushed me from doing that into doing what I'm doing now was the business coach that I had. He was one of those people who was super enthusiastic, and every time you got off the phone with him, was like, "Yes, I can do this." And I never really had somebody who mm, supported me in that way and made me feel confident that yes, I could step out of where I was and do something that was a little scary for me, like start pitching companies cold and doing all sorts of things. So he kind of gave me that push. And that's how I got into it. And honestly, since then, I've started to expand a little more and step out of my comfort zone and start going back to doing like personal writing. Back in the day, everybody had a live journal or an open diary or something. She said, dating herself as an older millennial. And
Hello, elder millennial. I feel you.
yeah,
I feel you
yeah.
there.
So I wanted to get back to personal writing. I used to write a lot creatively and do personal writing. And so I'm dipping my toes back into that, launched a Substack newsletter, and that might wind up being something else that I do. We'll see where it goes.
I love how you're not content just staying. Like you tried the 9 to 5, which I think a lot of millennials were sold. We were sold that as young. You go to school, go to university, get a job with a big corporation. They'll take care of you because that's what they did with our grandparents and our families, right? In reality, it's a giant lie. It's not true. But you kind of had growing up an entrepreneurial life, even though it wasn't as it is now with digital, with your parents having that family store, you had the family store. So do you feel that because you were growing up in that world of entrepreneurship that it was harder for you to transition, do the typical 9 to 5s?
I think it was kind of a combination of things. And also because we had with the way that everything was that English, with the way that everything was with family business, it was actually like an in-house thing. And so it was just on the cusp of when everything was going online. And so transitioning from things like, advertising in a catalog to having a website. And I was the one who knew how to do the website stuff because I was growing up in it. And I think just having the experience of doing things at home, not really having to commute, being able to do different things instead of just one thing all the time, and also having the experience of going out and working and doing things like working in food service, working at a bookstore, working in just those little jobs that you get when you're a young, an older teenager, young 20 something, having those experiences, realizing that it's it's a grind and maybe it isn't for everybody. I know some people who work in those kinds of jobs and they are perfectly content. And I had friends who worked in them and were perfectly content, but it just didn't jive with me. I think it was just that, and being an introvert.
That generally, yeah, that I can understand that. No, I'm always curious because luckily with this podcast, I get to talk with a lot of different entrepreneurs and how they got into it. And I'm always curious because I didn't grow up with the typical entrepreneurial people in my life. I look back, I did have entrepreneurs in my life, but I didn't realize at the time. And so I use this podcast to learn. And so whenever I have someone who had somewhat of a typical entrepreneurial youth, I'm always curious about like how did that did it was that an effect so that you didn't go into the 9 to 5s and go into that corporate that we were sold? Was it because of your like was it more nurturing instead of nature or whatever however that words. I think like a writer and a podcaster can't even use the English language that they're using. Wow, I feel sorry for people listening to this episode. They'll be like, what? Are they drunk? I promise
That's
I'm
okay. We
sober.
talk real good.
Yeah, we talk real good. Moving on. So you connected with this business coach, and I want to touch on that. Like, how important do you think it was to your career connecting with that business coach and having that support, like that person who's that cheerleading you on, making you feel like you can do anything?
I think it was really important because he had also had experience doing things that I had never done, like using online tools to prospect for clients and doing cold outreach, which, I'm not a huge fan of cold outreach. I have really pulled way back on that and do more of like a personal, it's still kind of cold, but it's more personalized now.
Mhm.
But just learning the frameworks and him, being somebody who coaches people to do this sort of thing and him believing that it was possible for me to do it. Just having somebody else who was there to answer questions, who could teach me the frameworks and to get me going and kind of get me on a kind of like that upward ramp that you go on when you're on a roller coaster. Having somebody to be there and say, okay, this is the next step, or these are the next things you need to learn. That was really helpful. And it got me thinking more along the lines of, instead of hitting a wall and being like, I can't do this, if I hit a wall, it'd be like, okay, clearly I need to just learn something to go the next step. I just don't have all the information. And it was a mindset shift for me. Because a lot of the times I would think, oh, this isn't working. How come I can't do this? There must be something wrong with me or with what I'm doing, instead of thinking, well, yeah, I've just never done this before. So maybe I just don't know what to do next and I need to go find out. And also the idea that it doesn't matter if I don't know, someone else knows, they've done it before. So it was really liberating in that sense.
I love that. Like that was just like 4 golden nuggets you just dropped, and I didn't even ask for it. And it's like, and like as you're saying, it's like, okay, looks like I need another type of coach. Um, y- where do you want to go? Like, obviously, you're having the time of your, or hopefully having the time of your life doing what you're doing. I know you're knitting, so that's you're at least doing something you love. But where do you want to go? Like, what is like a dream that you like to hit in your or something on your bucket list regarding your career?
You know, I have wanted to write a book, not just like I did an ebook, over the summer. I did an ebook just kind of distilling information about plant-based diets, because there's so much misinformation out there,
Mhm.
and there's so much like tribalism and splitting hairs. So I was finally like, you know what, I'm gonna write something about this. But that was an ebook that I self-published on Amazon, and not to um be down on that, because a lot of people do that and they do quite well with it. But I would actually like to write a book, maybe more than one. And that is something that I feel like I want to move toward, is doing more of the personal writing, and even like within the business side of it, helping other people do more writing that matters. I feel like a lot of the internet content, we've just reached peak saturation with everything that is written for the algorithms and everything that is written for SEO. And obviously, SEO has its place. If you're a business and you want your brand to rank, your products pages to rank, that's super important. But I feel like there are so many people with really interesting stories and with things to say that would spark discussions. And I really believe that if people would lean into that, we could actually make significant changes to society and to the world. And so I'd like to not only support people in doing that, but also do some of my own writing and kind of step out and I'll just borrow a phrase from my friend Rob Hardy. He runs Ungated Media. Step out and be courageous, and just say things that need to be said. And that's kind of where I'm going with the other aspects of my writing right now is exploring that. So we'll see where it goes.
I love that. Ooh, I'm interested to see where you go. I want to talk about your book. What would your book be on? Would it be a fiction? Would it be a knowledge kind of book? Would it be your story?
I'm not 100% sure. I would like to. Um, I come from a Christian worldview, and I would like to write a little more on. I did a pop up newsletter
Mhm.
over not this summer, but the summer before that, called "Consuming Ourselves," and it's still up on Substack if people want to read it. It was about food and body image and all of that from like a Christian perspective. And I would actually like to explore that further in a book because I feel like there's not a lot helpful said about that from a Christian perspective. When I was younger, I struggled with an eating disorder and that was weird. Like it was bizarre, like being in that and coming out of that, and also like coming into a Christian worldview at the same time. And I still have a lot of things I'd like to say about food and body image, but I also had a thought about writing a book about identity and the way that it has changed and the way that people approach like shaping their identities has changed and my like concerns about that. And I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd write a book about of personal essays too. That's what I do on my current Substack. You never know what'll happen.
I love it. No, I love that it's like you're open to all, and you're not closed to anything. So that's a fun time. Um, in your journey so far, has there been a moment that may like from a client win that you're like, yeah, I'm so happy I was able to get that client win, to maybe an achievement or something that you were able to get done, like you're sitting on top of like Mount Everest, being like, holy crap, I'm on the top of Mount Everest here, to like a win in a business like you never thought you would hit, a goal you would never thought you'd hit, that something that sustains you during the down days, that we all have in business.
Well, honestly, what sustains me during the down days is my business runs on prayer. I make no secret of that. But in terms of actual like business wins, I had a client once who was a functional mushroom company, and I'm the chief nerd for a reason. I love stuff like that. I legit spent the time that I worked with them writing nerdy content about medicinal mushrooms like shaga and reishi, looking at scientific papers, reading scientific mushroom books, and then I'd get on, chats with the client and we'd talk work for a while and then we'd be talking about like things that had nothing to do with it and we were just total nerds and that was really fun. I felt like it was almost like having a client and like a friend in a way that wasn't, detrimental business wise because we were both very business minded and also both nerds for what we did. So that was, I think, my most fun client. And we're still in touch. So we still catch up once in a while. And I had one other moment that was really, I don't know, it was one of those things where when the client said it, I was like, I had no idea that this was happening. I it was a client where I was working on, his business story and his marketing materials. And when we were done, he's like, you really helped me find my voice. I wasn't confident in posting this or this. And now I really feel like I've refined, and found my voice. And I was like us being on Zoom and you like brain dumping, that helped. So that you never know what people are going to benefit from. So that was really fun. And I felt good about that because I just felt like maybe that's something else I could do. Like even now as I go to lean a little bit more into like the stories and the meaningful content, maybe that's something else I could help people with.
I love that. No, well, it's important that people find their voice, and I think we all lost our voices and how we talk and how we communicate, because we don't want to be we want to be protected. We don't want to show this and be rejected and hurt. and having someone show us how you can use your voice and no one's going to get mad at you. People are going to resonate with it. And I think you help do that, and I think that would be a great thing to do. Um, trying to think of. Well, so obviously you chose. I'm always interested in people's names that they provide themselves, like the chief nerd. Like this is your company. You can call yourself the founder. You can call yourself the CEO. You can give yourself thousands of the prototypical titles that business has. What made you choose the chief nerd?
Yeah, I tried founder, and for me, it felt kind of stuffy just for what I do. I feel like founder is more like when you make a product or you put some like really interesting tech innovation out into the world. You have like founder sits well. But when you're like writing long form content, like founder just doesn't sit. And I thought, well, wait a minute. One of the reasons I love doing this is because I'm a huge nerd for all of these different topics, health, and literally I will dive into almost anything. I mean, you can't see it, but this bookshelf over here, like there's one and a half double shelves of like my Bible study type books, and then there's like another bookshelf down on my other side that's too deep on some of my food books, and there's more on this bookshelf. So I will literally like dive into things just head first and nerd out about them. And I enjoy having nerdy conversations. And I'm also the person who has the t-shirt that's got like a picture of a cat in a lab coat wrestling with a ball of yarn, and the shirt says string theory research. So that's my personality.
I love it. Oh God, I love that. I love the quest for knowledge. Like regardless of what it is, you just want to have that knowledge and go deep into the subjects you love. I think that is a huge trait that entrepreneurs all share. This nerdism for our particular love. Um, because you trying to figure out like I want to ask you for a tip, but I'm not sure like I can obviously ask you about health and eating and all that tip, and there's probably a plethora of them out there. And your ebook obviously is a great place to start. I got it. If you could give a piece of advice for someone choosing to go into the long form content, maybe not necessarily in the health world, but maybe in tech or in another part of it, but specifically sticking with long form personalized content, do you have any advice or any tips for them?
Think of yourself as a writer, and don't just think of yourself as like a content writer, but think of yourself as a writer. One of the big things that I see and that I think is going to differentiate, wish there was a better word than that, that is really going to make people stand out, especially as more and more people realize that we are saturated with enough, five vegan gifts for your vegan dad for your vegan Father's Day as a vegan posts. And yeah, you're laughing. You know what I'm talking about.
I do, and it's hilarious because like they're just throwing in the keywords as many
Yep.
times in the title instead of
Yep.
just one. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I like to throw out a little plug for this when I talk about this. I mentioned my friend Rob earlier. He has this great thing called the Ungated Manifesto, and he calls all that the pattern. So, like, huge, just shameless plug for Rob, because everyone I know who has read that is like, yes, I understand. So, as the pattern gets more and more, prevalent, I see a lot of people who want to break away from it. So if you're going to be going into like long form content writing, yes, people will want you to know about SEO. Yes, they will want you to be able to work from a content brief. Those things are important. But if you can deliver them quality content from an actual writer who cares about things like grammar and spelling and punctuation, and who cares about things flowing properly and sounding right, and not just being something that got whacked out because somebody wants their blog to rank, I think that's going to be really important, because quality writing does not just inform or entertain, but it actually is like a beautiful art in and of itself. To that end, I would highly recommend two books by a man named Jack Hart. wordcraft and storycraft. Now, they focus a little bit more on journalistic and narrative nonfiction, but I read them both and I want to reread them because they are very actionable and I feel like they changed the way I approach writing, made it more of a craft and less of a I'm going to write this so that I appear on Google.
Which is, I think, I'm looking more and more forward to that, and especially with the Mike. So here's a follow up to that. With lights are on. With AI, as I bring on AI, my the AI system in my house is turning on.
It's watching you,
Is it?
Phil.
Oh, what are you saying about us?
I
With the, like
can't do that,
obvious,
Phil.
I know I can't. I'm scared. I'm always watching my shoulders. But with like the tools like Chat GPT and Rewrite and Blogger and or not Blogger, but all these tools that use AI to create content, do you see it? Well, no, that's going to cause. Do you see that being a threat to long form?
No, because they can't think. They can't think and they cannot create beauty. They cannot create form the way that human beings can. I have a few thoughts on this. I think AI can be a very good tool. I've actually used small AI tools when I've been stuck on rewriting something. And it's if you've been inside your own content for so long that it's just going around and around in your brain, using an AI tool to like rearrange a paragraph can really snap you out of that and be like, oh, that's the word I was looking for. Or yeah, that sounds better. And that's where I need to go. So I think they can be good tools. Um, and also for things like blog introductions, which have a tendency to be a little bit repetitive, it can kind of help you get ideas of how to get out of the repetitious forms. So you're not always writing the blog introduction that goes, let's take a look at, or here's how to. And I've gotten stuck in that. Um, but as far as AI generating content that will replace human written long form, I don't see it happening, especially well, you were saying before too, like we've lost our voices, right? And I
Mhm.
think part of it is we've become so scared to be uncertain. We have to be always making definitive statements. This is how things are. This is how things are going to be. But as humans, there's always that organic kind of element, and I think we need that for writing, and that's I mentioned being in, the Writers Collective, Foster,
Mhm.
and that is one of the premises is you cannot replace, um, people with AI. You need a human touch that's going to look at it from a human brain that has human emotions, human experiences, and that's the other thing. AI can't have experiences, and you were mentioning resonating with a voice. How are people gonna resonate with something that came from a machine? I mean, they might, it might be good for writing informative content, like how to put together that
Listicles
thing.
or
Yeah, yeah, or like how to put together that thing that has really, really bad instructions that you ordered off of Amazon. We've all been there, but it can't, it can't write like the story of a founder who grew up in, you know, some far-flung country and discovered a very interesting ingredient that grows nowhere else, and that's why they made this product. It's not gonna be able to tell that story in a way that's gonna resonate with other humans. So I think that that is going to be a big differentiator too for people who are writing long form content, bringing that human element instead of just always pounding out things that are the same.
I love it. I love how you're not scared of the AI. You're like, this is a tool we can use to make ourselves better, and I like that because it's coming. It's going to be replacing some type of jobs, but it's going to be able to be used. If you can use it efficiently, you're going to be even better at your job. And I like that you're looking at it as a tool and not a competition. We are coming to the end, near the end of the episode, which I hate because I'm having a fun time. I'm also wondering how far along on your sock are you?
Well, this is actually what's called a swatch. I need because I'm gonna be working from a sock pattern, I need to make sure it's gonna be the right size. So
Ah.
I have a little just a little bit of
Oh, just a little. You're
fabric
just getting
here.
the size.
Well,
Okay.
these are also very small needles and it's very small yarn. So because they are
Sh-
indeed socks.
Ah. So what we're going to do is we're at the Spark question. If you don't know what Spark is, it's from Seek Discomfort, an amazing organization, amazing YouTube channel. You should check them out. They look to promote saying yes to more adventures in life. But their seek discomfort question is: are you living the life that you used to dream about?
Is anybody? At this point, I have to say no. Well, when I was a kid, like you said, we had the millennial tunnel trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And we were going to grow up, and this is the way it was going to be, and we were going to have the family and the 2.5 children and the 1.5 dogs in the Pleasant Valley Sunday house.
Don't forget the
Please
white
tell me,
picket fence.
white picket fence. Please tell me someone out there gets the Pleasant Valley Sunday reference. I just made it the other night among a bunch of younger millennials, and no one knew what I was talking about.
It's from Pleasantville, right? The movie.
Further back than that.
Oh, okay. Even as an elder millennial, it could be that I may have missed it.
That's okay. But anyway, someone out there probably understands what I'm saying. But we had all that pitched to us, and I'm not saying that that's bad. I know people who live that life and they have wonderful families and they love it. But I think I would have to say that, right now with the way the economy's been, this is the other side of being a digital entrepreneur. If you're a freelancer, your client load goes up and down with different things that happen in the market and the economy. And it's been a little up and down this last year, but hasn't everything. But as with everything that we were talking about with, me wanting to write a book and transitioning more to more personal writing, I think that I'm becoming more comfortable with living what is happening now. And I think a lot of that has to do with being a Christian and relying on prayer and looking to God to direct things. But I'm slowly learning to, instead of say, well, this isn't necessarily where I wanted to be at this point in my life, it's like, well, this is where I am. Let's see where it goes from here. And I think that that is kind of a key in life because nothing ever goes the way we picture it. I mean, you just have to try to plan a day to know that especially if you have children. I don't, but I have some friends who have some pretty
I have a
rambunctious
nephew.
kids.
That's enough.
Yeah. I got some friends that got like 9 kids, so I can't only imagine. Um, you'd never have a day go as planned with, what would that make your entire household, like 11 people? So, so I think that that is going to be the way that I go forward is, okay, this is what I'm doing now. And we'll take the next step and see what unfolds.
I love it. I love that. I love how you said like um you're not where you were meant to be, where you pictured you would be, but hey, I'm here. How can I make this the best? I'm already here. Let's try and make it the best. I love that attitude, and I think a lot more people need to think like that. Say, hey, it's the journey. It's not the destination. You'll get there eventually. The only journey you really need to know about is your birth and your death. That's the only journey that's secured, right? So the journey, anything you picture in your head is just a possibility, and I love it. Oh my god, I love talking with amazing people. Um, Sam, I'm going to jump off because if not, we're going to talk for 18 hours, and I don't want to steal you for 18 hours because I'm scared of how many socks you're going to actually knit or micro crochet. I don't know, whatever it is that keeps you from fidgeting all the time. I think I may have to start, but the floor is yours. Tell my audience where they can connect with you and have learn from you.
Well,
wait, wrong one. There we go.
Well, I actually, as part of my journey, have been off the social medias for a while. So if people want to connect with me, they can go to my website, which is modernhealthnerd.com. You can also check out my personal essay newsletter, which is continuedjourney.substack.com. It's called The Journey Continues. And if you just want to touch base or learn any more about what I've been talking about today, you can give me just shoot me an email, SAM at modernhealthnerd.com. And no, I don't take personal requests for knitting socks. Sorry.
Dang it. Anyways, since I've lost the chance of having a personalized knitted sock, which I will cry about later. Sam, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing your story, telling us a little bit about what it's like in the long form world. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, thanks, Phil. I enjoyed chatting with you.
Sorry, that was really badly timed to pause so that you could take a sip. But yes, so thank you, Sam. To my audience, thank you very much for listening. You can find all the links to Sam's stuff in the show notes down below. Go ahead and check it out if you're interested in modern health and veganism and all that fun stuff and plant-based life. I'm pretty sure you can get her ebook. It will be down in the show notes, of course.
Oh, yes, that's on Amazon. It's
there
called
we
the Whole
go.
Food Plant-Based Diet Guide.
Even better.
Starter guide.
Starter guide. There we go.
Yes,
So if you
Whole
want to
Food
start
Plant-Based Diet Starter
being it will be in the link down below. I want to thank you very much for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself.